folks, today we're just going to have a look at the ST1500 to 2000 repair kit. I'm just going to show you how to install it. There has been on the odd occasion we've had a leak, more so at low pressure coming from the trigger, and we're just going to show you how to repair that problem. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take the two Phillips screws out, one on either side of the gun here. So we're just going to remove those first. And put them down somewhere safe. One on the opposite side. The next thing I'm going to do is put the gun in the vise again and just gently nip it up, and just notice I'm holding it on the actual handle there rather than the top, because I don't want to clamp the actual gun together. So the next thing I'm going to do is get a screwdriver and just go into the back like that, start to the back to the front, and just gently, it should just gently prise it out like that. Notice you've got two guards on the side there to hold the actual pin in for the trigger mechanism. So just make sure they're intact. There's another good reason for just gently warming it up sometimes, it's just a good idea. You don't want to break that tang off there on the front. So put that to one side. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is put a socket on the top of the gun itself, and that allows you access into the trigger mechanism. So we'll take that off. Okay, so this is a 19mm socket. And we're just going to very carefully undo that. So at this stage I'm just not going to take that out, I'm just going to leave that loose in the top there. It's just useful while it's actually in the gun that you can sort of undo it, while it's in the vise, sorry, that you can actually undo that. So the next thing I'm going to do is just knock the pin out that holds the trigger mechanism in place. You see there's a pin in there. So again I'm going to actually put this in the vise, and I'm going to put it upright like that, and just gentle pressure to hold it. And we're just going to knock the pin through. Without losing it. There we go, put that somewhere safe. So now I can take the trigger mechanism out, like so. Okay, so now we can go back to the top of the gun. And we can undo that nut by hand. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just lie everything out in order, and the mechanism goes in with the flush side with a white washer to the bottom of the gun. So if I'm holding the gun like that, it goes in first like that with a white washer down. Okay, so the difficult part, a little bit tricky part, is getting the piston in effect out. You don't really want to damage the bore because it is brass, and we'll show you how to do that now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just tip it over and just get that spring out there. Put that on the bench. And the next thing we're going to do is get the actual rod out, and I think this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because we need to push that through. Just push it through with something, and then I can very carefully get hold of it and pull that through. And just slide that down on there like that. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is get the actual piston assembly out itself. Okay, so what I'm going to do to actually get the piston out is use a punch in through the front, and basically all this does is hold the piston in place while I use a M3 bolt. So I'm just going to push it directly into the piston and just turn it till it bites, and then it grips it and pulls it out like so. Because that's a sacrificial part, it doesn't matter. Okay, so you just got to be really careful that when you put the bolt in, you don't damage the actual outer housing. But when they leak, normally it's the washer, the rubber washer in there that gives away. So now we've got that out, we can put the new kit in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of rubber grease, just a very small amount on the actual piston itself, just gently right around the actual, and it just stops it picking up when you push it back in. You could, if you wanted to, if it's an older gun, just give this a blowout with an airline, or even a washout as well would be a good idea, just to make sure it's super clean. In this instance it is a brand new gun, so we're alright. So you've got to remember to put the white washer in first. Be very, very careful when you put it in. And just center it into the hole. You may need to use some needle nose pliers to help you put it in. That's it. And just push it down like that, and now we're in. So the next thing is the spring. You just push the spring on the top, and then the actual outer valve, check valve on the end. So again, I'm going to put a little bit of grease on, just on that first one, and just put that right around, and then we can push this back into the housing itself. Do it up finger tight. And now we can put it back in the vise. It's nice and tight. Okay, so the next thing is the trigger mechanism. So you can just align the actual holes. You've got to get the actual holes lined up before you put the pin in, get it absolutely spot on, because these are actually a relatively hard plastic, but they can be damaged quite easily. So there we go. So you should be able to get this started off with your fingers, and I'm just simply going to tap that on there like that. Now I can put it back in the gun, in the vise, and just gently tap that through. So we should be able to see the slot either side to allow for the housing to sit in. If you haven't got it sat square, and I haven't in this case, it's still sitting a little bit further over. So I can just make sure it's all the way through. That's good. Okay, so now it's simply a case of putting the housing back in, so it clips into the front first. And just push it in like that. Screws back in. Either side. And that completes the installation of your repair kit in your ST1500. There you go.